Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a post-apocalyptic sci-fi show called Extinct. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The show begins in a vast desert, with a masked man standing by a large lake. Moments later, he witnesses a strange red drone crash into the water. He tries to follow the drone, but it suddenly emits blue, sparkling substances. These sparks spread in the water, and eventually form the shape of a man. It turns out this man's name is Ezra, and he begins to have visions of his life. He remembers marrying his wife Lynn, and having a daughter with her. He also recalls the alien invasion, and how it destroyed the entire human race. Just then, Ezra awakens and is surprised to find himself in the water. He quickly swims to the shore and gets confused by his surroundings. He then attempts to flee from the drone, but it shoots a dart at him. The drone asks him several questions about his family and finally confirms his identity. Moments later, another man and a woman suddenly appear at the lake. Ezra helps them get to the shore, and they are equally confused. The woman introduces herself as Fina, while the man introduces himself as Abram. The red drone also approaches them and checks their vital signs before confirming their identities. None of them understand where they are or how they got here. They look around and find the wreckage of an alien warship that attacked Earth 3 years ago. Surprisingly, the vehicle's parts have decomposed, a process that typically takes centuries. Furthermore, Abram is surprised to find himself much younger and reveals that he is actually 67 years old. The red drone then explains that they are resurrected during their prime years. It reveals that the alien invasion occurred 400 years ago, causing the extinction of the human race. They all died at the time, but they have been revived due to the blue substance in the water, known as sparks. It turns out the trio now has a mission to revive the human species. The drone also explains that their genes have been altered to make them adaptable to this era. During this time, the masked man in the distance keeps a constant eye on them. The drone then offers to take the trio to a settlement where they can find others like themselves. It also instructs Ezra to gather the sparks in a container, which he successfully does. Following this, they begin to proceed forward and soon arrive in front of massive metal rings. Abram rushes to the rings with excitement, but receives a powerful shock instead. That's what happens when you act like Sonic. Just then, the mysterious person launches an attack on them, hitting Abram with a dart. He also shuts down the red drone, but Ezra manages to fight the man and restrains him. It turns out the man's name is Jax, and he has a glowing parasite on the back of his neck. This thing is called a companion, and those who have it are called skin riders. Okay. The trio questions him about his motives, and Jax reveals that he wants the sparks. He also claims the drone is deceiving them and there is no settlement. The trio doesn't trust him and ties him up with a rope before abandoning him. As a last resort, Jax claims to know Ezra's brother, but Ezra doesn't believe him and departs. Shortly after they leave, Jax is rescued by other skin riders, including their leader, Silas. Jax then uses his companion to show him a vision of the trio who tied him up. Silas is shocked to see his brother Ezra and becomes determined to find him. On the other hand, the trio realizes that it's going to get dark soon, so they seek shelter in a cave. But Abram suddenly becomes ill, and they suspect Jax infected him with something harmful. Ezra and Fina feel helpless without the drone and don't know how to help him. With no other choice, they decide to take a risk and bring him to a small swamp where they release the spark on him. Surprisingly, it works, and Abram heals quickly as if he had never been sick at all. Such is the power of Shrek. The next morning, the trio continues their journey to find the settlement. They soon arrive in a forest where several skin riders appear and begin attacking them. Alarmed, Ezra orders his companions to leave while he deals with them. He then begins fighting the skin riders alone with condoms until he recognizes Silas among them. Ezra is shocked to see him and calls him brother. However, Jax tells him that Silas is their brother now. Meanwhile, just as Abram and Fina manage to reach the settlement walls, they are attacked by the skin riders again. It seems like everything is over for them, but luckily, a yellow drone arrives and subdues the attackers. On the other hand, Ezra is captured by Silas and his companions, who try to convert him into a skin rider.
Please no! Anything but that!
But the heroic yellow drone once again shows up and carries Ezra away from there. Following this, the trio enters the settlement, which is fortified by tall walls to prevent the skin riders from breaching. However, to their surprise, the place is deserted and no humans are present. When they they inquire about other people, the yellow drone displays rows of graves where previous settlers are buried. Seeing this, they feel deceived, and Ezra starts banging on the settlement door to get out, but the yellow drone calms him down and takes him inside a military base. There, it explains that the previous settlers were killed by a novel virus that still exists in the area. At this moment, Fina suddenly begins bleeding from her nose, and they realize she has also been infected. The yellow drone reveals that the sparks can make medicine that acts as an antidote. However, to do this, they must travel to a distant lake to gather the necessary raw materials. With no other choice, the two men set off to find the lake, while Fina stays behind. Meanwhile, in the forest, we notice a skin rider named Duncan running frantically. It turns out that his companion has stopped working and is no longer glowing. He is quickly apprehended by the skin riders, and Silas scolds him for not responding to their calls. Just then, they receive an alert that two humans have left the settlement, prompting them to go after them. On their way to the lake, Ezra and Abram question the yellow drone about who controls the entire system. The drone responds that it obeys the Sparks commands, but who commands the Sparks remains unknown. The two men then begin talking about their personal lives, and Abram reveals that he was a psychiatrist, while Ezra was a soldier. They soon arrive at the lake and release the Sparks into the water to begin the process of creating the medicine. While they wait, Ezra opens up to Abram, explaining that one of the skin riders is his brother. This revelation implies that the skin riders are also human beings, resurrected by the Sparks. Ezra then says he wants to persuade his brother to get rid of his companion and join their cause. Back in the settlement, Fina tries to fix the red drone, but she becomes very sick and lies down to rest. Moments later, a blonde woman appears in front of her, which shocks her. We then learn that her name is Lynn, and she is Ezra's wife. However, she is not a real person, but rather a holographic AI projection sent by the red drone to help her. She does her best to help Fina, but the latter shows no signs of improvement. So, Lynn suggests to the drone that maybe Fina should see someone close to her. At this point, a projection of Duncan appears, making Fina very pleased. We then learn that they were lovers during their lifetime. Returning to the lake, Ezra and Abram are warned by the yellow drone that the skin riders are approaching them. It suggests to the men that they should run away while the Sparks hide themselves in the water. The men then separate, but unfortunately, Ezra is captured by Silas and knocked out. In the evening, he wakes up and finds his brother in front of him. He asks Silas what he is doing here and inquires about the parasite on his neck. The latter explains about the companion and how it influences their behavior. He says that it helps him to be better and avoid being a screw-up like he was during his lifetime. Ezra responds that he was never a screw-up and that he just made some bad choices. He urges his brother to get rid of the companion and be human like them. At this moment, Silas's companion suddenly begins to weaken and he falls asleep. Ezra takes advantage of this and flees to the lake, where he meets Abram. They collect the Sparks along with the medicine and some seaweed for food. They then rush back to the settlement to administer the medicine to Fina, who has lost consciousness. Fortunately, the medication works and she gradually begins to recover. The next day, the yellow drone leads Abram to a room with a massive metallic obelisk standing. He immediately calls his friends and shows them his discovery. The obelisk is covered in symbols and marks that the trio does not recognize. After staring at it for a while, Abram suddenly learns to read hieroglyphs and realizes that the unknown host has directed them to unearth a powerful weapon hidden in the forest. Although Ezra is skeptical, the others persuade him to trust the obelisk for their survival. So, he equips himself with a bow and arrows and sets out with the yellow drone in search of this weapon. Meanwhile, in the forest, Silas tells Duncan about his companion's purpose and importance, but Duncan doesn't seem interested and claims that the companion is messing with his brain and that he doesn't want to be a servant. Silas asserts that they are not servants and leads him outside, where Jax is fighting another skin rider. He urges Duncan to fight Jax and demonstrate his strength. Soon, the two men begin fighting, and to everyone's surprise, Duncan easily wins. This is unexpected because Jax is known as the best fighter in their community. Silas then leads them inside and explains that normal humans have an advantage in combat over skin riders. It has just been confirmed because Duncan's companion is not functioning properly. It turns out that the companion causes delays in sending messages from the brain to the body, which is a disadvantage for them. He proposes a solution that involves neurological surgery, but it requires a working drone and a human test subject. So, Silas suggests attacking the trio hiding behind the settlement walls. Meanwhile, at the settlement, Fina talks more with Lynn's projection and discovers that she is Ezra's wife. She also confides in Lynn about her relationship with Duncan and expresses her desire to see him. In the end, Fina fixes seizes the red drone and asks it to resurrect Duncan, unaware that he has already become a skin rider. Afterwards, Silas gives Duncan some of the sparks mixed with water to fix his companion. He explains that the sparks have a natural ability to heal any fully formed living organism. This is why the sparks destroyed Abram's companion earlier, as it was not fully formed. Duncan refuses, saying that it is better to die than to be a slave, but Silas and the others force him to drink the water. In another scene, we see Ezra in the forest, excavating the weapon while being guided by the yellow drone. When he asks what kind of weapon it is, the drone reveals that it is a powerful device designed to eliminate skin riders. He feels a pang of fear upon hearing this, because he doesn't want to hurt his brother. Shortly after, Ezra finally finds the strange weapon and prepares to leave, but just then, several skin riders appear out of nowhere and surround him. Jax grabs the weapon from him and begins to examine it. Surprisingly, the weapon hurts him and quickly knocks him out. In a matter of seconds, it ends up hurting every other skin rider present there. Ezra takes advantage of the situation and runs away with the weapon. In the next scene, he returns to the settlement and shows the weapon to his companions. They then bring it to the obelisk, who explains that they must use it to eliminate all the skin riders and restore humanity. The other two agree with this, but Ezra is hesitant since Silas is a skin rider as well. He doesn't want to attack them without reason, although his friends try to explain that it's humans versus skin riders now. At this moment, Lynn suddenly appears and disappears a few seconds later, which shocks Ezra. Fina then explains that she is not real and just a hologram. However, the obelisk promises to resurrect Ezra's wife and daughter if he agrees to the mission. This puts our hero in a difficult situation because he is desperate to reunite with his family. After much deliberation, he finally agrees to wage war against the skin riders, led by his brother. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.